Alright, so if you just bought the bed and not the rest of the kit, then you also will need to install the wall bracers. So we're going to go ahead and open up the wall bracer box, and I'll show you how they go in the van. And this is the substructure that goes behind the walls that helps reinforce the bed and give it the structural integrity that it needs for you to be able to sleep on it. So this is the wall bracer box. Inside the box, you'll have a roll like this, and this is your track that is going to bolt onto the A-frame, and this is what we call the A-frame right here. These are the vertical bed pieces for the A-frame. You'll have 4 of them. 2 of them are 3-dimensional, meaning they have structure behind it, and 2 of them are flat that just get riv nutted directly to the skin of the vehicle. These odd-shaped ones like this, they have the bend in them, they have the structure in the back. Those go to the aft of the vehicle on the very back side of the vehicle, while these flat ones go on the midline of the vehicle in the forward section. So we'll go ahead and bring these into the van, and I'll show them how you put them in. Okay, to put in your bed install kit, you've got 4 of these metal pieces that are orange that we call the A-frame. This is the verticals of the A-frame. Right here you'll see a large OEM hole, and I take the 25/64 bit, also 10mm works, and I widen that hole out. And after you widen it out, with every hole that you punch, you're going to want to do the same process where you deburr that hole. Even when you punch these holes, as you make your way through mounting all of this, you will deburr each hole. And you'll also use the anti-rust that comes in the small bottle with the brush. And we put that into the hole. And I usually like to put it on pretty liberally, and you can even kind of scrape it across the back side, so you're kind of pulling that, pulling it back towards you so it sort of oozes up on the back side. So once you've prepped your hole, you will notice that you have 2 holes that are fairly close to each other. The lower hole that is closest to the center line, this bottom one here, is what you will set your rib nut through, and then set it through that OEM hole and line it up fairly vertically and set it. Once that hole is set, that takes care of any vertical alignment. These little notches in the side are meant for you to see what I call the 0 line, or the midline of the van. It's the seam that goes all the way down. I basically just split that seam, and I make sure that from the bottom, the mid, and the top, they're all in line on that middle of that seam. Okay, so once I know that these are going to be aligned nicely, I see what I need to pay attention to as I work my way down with 1 hole at a time. I'll punch this hole next, and I'll lift it away, let some of the tailings come away, deburr it, put my anti-rust in there and set it. I'll also set this one. After that, I could probably get away with doing 2 of them at a time, but I don't like to punch all the holes all the way through because it can drift just a little bit, and then you're fighting it as you work your way down. So I basically just punch a couple holes and move through, but I definitely want to punch this hole and this hole 1 at a time before I punch multiple holes. And I just make sure that I'm, again, on line where these notches are with the center of the vehicle, right splitting that seam. Okay, so after you put the rib nuts in from the midline or from the top down, come back to where you started, and then these three. The key here, if you can't pinch it in, you can go ahead and get a clamp, but just make sure you have the A-frame against the skin of the vehicle. And I go ahead and punch all three of these, and then I'll set all three. So after you finish the first one, which is marked S1, goes on the driver's side, we'll move back directly behind it to S2, which goes on the aft side of the driver's side. Okay, so take S2, and it's the same situation where you have an OEM hole back here, the larger one, and you take the same 25/64 drill bit and widen that hole out, and you will use this hole as your set hole to align it. Up here, the wiring harness, you will want to detach it from the top hole because this bracer will actually cover that hole. Okay, once the bracer is in place, you will want to make sure that the bottom is lined up. Right now it can slide forward and back. So you'll want to make a mark measuring off of the front bracer to this area here and set it on that mark. If you're buying the whole kit, the horizontal A-frame connects into these indexes and you can use that to set it. But if you're just installing the bed and not the rest of the kit, you'll have to make this, take this by a measurement. Okay, so to line up this bottom, you'll take your measuring tape and you'll put it butt it straight into the edge of that forward wall bracer that you just put there. So this will help if you have a friend to hold it, but if not, you can use a magnet, piece of tape, and you'll mark it where you want it at 55 and 15/16. If you're at 55 or if you're at 56, you're safe, but don't go less than 15/16. 55 and 15/16 is the shortest distance that you want it. Honestly, if you're never going to install the rest of the kit, this is not critical because you'll have plenty of tolerance when you hang the bed. But the actual distance, if you are using the kit, is 55 and 15/16. If you're just installing it, just remember right around 56, a shy less than 56, but no less than 15/16. And then you'll always be able to put the kit in later if you choose to. So once you make the mark, there's a hole. You can either use the hole up here on this tab or the small hole that is right behind the main rib nut hole here, and that's for a set screw. So I'll move it right where I want it, and I'll take the set screw and drill it in. Now it's locked in place. I can go ahead and drill out all of my rib nut holes at one time, including my tabs for the 3/16 rivets, and even the bottom one. I can drill them all out at once. Then I can remove this set screw, pull it away a little bit, and wipe the back and let the tailings fall out. And then put it close and go ahead and deburr it. And make sure that you're putting the anti-rust on the A-frame as well, because once you drill through these holes, you're scraping the powder coat away. So all of that gets gooed. Okay, so I just set the rib nuts in all the places that the large holes were, And now I'm going to go through and set the 3/16 rivets. I like to take them and dip just the tip of them into the anti-rust. And even though I already dabbed these holes, I generally like to dip the rivet itself into it, and it kind of oozes around and squishes into that space a little better. So I'm going to go through and run the rivets in all the smaller holes. This one hole here is not a rivet hole. This is your set screw hole from the original time you were set screwing it, so don't put a rivet here. It will offset the track a little bit. It has the potential to do that. So I just do anti-rust in there and do the rivets and all the others. And don't forget to rivet your tabs. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. Alright, so after you've put in the rivets and the rib nuts to both the forward and the aft vertical bracers on the driver's side, you just repeat the same process on the passenger side, starting with the forward, and that is S1, and then S4 is the back aft piece. Same sort of deal. Install the forward one first, measure 56 inches back, or 55 and 15/16 if you want to be precise, to the front edge of our notch here. So it's the long tab that I aligned that number 56 to, 55 and 15/16 to. And I did it off of the flat edge of the forward bracer. The aft side of that forward bracer, to be specific. All right. Okay, so do not let these horizontal pieces confuse you. These will not be in your bed kit, install kit. They are not necessary for the bed install kit. But since I'm using a full kit to describe the bed install, I did go ahead and put these in. So at this point, you should have 4 pieces of orange A-frame in your vehicle. This piece, the aft vertical piece, number 3 vertical piece, and number 4 vertical piece. So those 4 pieces, without these 2, are your bed install, is your bed install kit. And the only thing you have left to do is put the track on it. When you put the track on, it's best to line up this middle hole first and work your way down from that hole, and then work your way up for that hole, and because there's a little bit of a bend here, right, in the wall, so you'll sort of push it in, line up that hole, and screw it in. You don't have to put it in super tight at that point. You want it a little bit loose so it still has room to go up and down just a little bit. And after you set all the bolts in so that they're screwed in a little bit, then you can go ahead and tighten it down. Tighten it down from the center first and work your way out towards the ends. When you go to remove the track, if you ever have to remove it in the future, remove the end bolts first and work your way to the center and release the center at the very end. And that will avoid creating too much tension being pulled out on the ends, and making it so you don't have as much tension on the rib nuts. So set your center one, work your way down, work your way up. When you're installing it, the shorter of the 4 tracks, you'll have 4 tracks. The shorter of the 4 tracks go in the front, the longer of the 4 tracks go in the back. Either side is identical to each other. All right, that's it. After that, you'll just put in your bed rails and have a good night's sleep.